An inspiring encounter. Rancher discovers Apache's hidden desire to master incredible skills. Under the fierce Arizona sun, Jake smashed his hammer against the stubborn wooden post, driven by desperation as much as sweat. Each thud echoed the pounding in his chest. His family's farm was crumbling, the weight of impending mortgage payments weighing heavier than the heat radiating from the earth below. A legacy built through grit and hard work was slipping through his fingers, and the thought of losing his father's land, the cattle, and each cherished memory filled him with dread. The relentless toil had taken its toll, both on the ranch and on him. Eyeing the distant mountains, he felt an inescapable pressure swelling within him. He wasn't just fighting for survival, he was battling his own fears of inadequacy. Days were filled with menial tasks, mending fences, caring for cattle, but they were quickly becoming a suffocating cycle. Every nail he hammered sent a jolt of pain through his mind. What would it mean to fail, to be the last of his bloodline, to abandon the dream that had sustained generations? A stubborn knot of pride twisted tightly in his chest, causing him to question everything he stood for. Was it worth sacrificing his mental health? The weight of economical hardship was compounded by an existential dread that simmered just beneath the surface. Just then, he heard a familiar voice, low and steady. Apache, a teenager from the neighboring ranch, deftly joined him to help with the fencing. With his long dark hair tied back and hands that seemed to dance with tradition, Apache's quiet manner offered a strange comfort amidst Jake's chaos. They worked side by side, discussing life and dreams while fixing the very fences that separated their lives. In Apache's eyes, Jake saw a spark, a passion for art that hinted at a wildness beneath the surface. It ignited something within him, a flicker of hope tempered with guilt. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark as all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as the art fair quickly approached, a chance for Apache to showcase his talents, Jake felt the suffocating pressure of his financial obligations tightening around him like a noose. Could he really encourage Apache to chase this dream while his own livelihood crumbled? Every moment they spent together, sharing laughter, amplified Jake's internal turmoil. Could he allow Apache to fly while he was struggling just to stay grounded? It felt selfish, even foolish, to contemplate another person's ambitions when his own family was hanging by a thread. In that stifling heat, Jake's doubts began to bubble over. What gave him the right to snuff out Apache's dreams just to safeguard a confused notion of legacy? The anguish scratched at his conscience, a relentless reminder that he might be the very barrier preventing someone else from achieving their potential. As the sun dipped lower, casting shadows over the looming structure of the farm, Jake felt more cornered than ever, caught between duty and desire. He had to confront his demons. Was he a protector or was he a jailer? The tension hung thick in the air, raw and unyielding, signaling the crossroad that lay just ahead, the outcome uncertain, but the stakes impossibly high. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Jake was left alone with his thoughts. Each brushstroke of light reminded him of the beauty he had once known, a stark contrast to the bleak reality closing in on him. The earning potential of Apache's art began to resonate within him like a siren call. What if this wise young man could craft a future not just for himself, but somehow, like a spark igniting dry timber, for Jake's own fading dream? Jake wiped the sweat from his brow. He could still recall the twinkle in Apache's eyes as he spoke with such passion about the pieces he was creating, pieces that held stories, traditions. His fingers, stained with paint, held a promise far larger than any fence they had been mending. Why couldn't he see the parallel in his own life? Somewhere hidden beneath exhaustion and fear lay a yearning for something more than the daily grind. The ranch was supposed to embody his father's dreams, but lately it felt more like a tomb for his ambitions. His gaze shifted to the wooden posts littered around him, objects of utility, yes, but representative of confinement to him as well. Cautiously, he reached out for the tools one more time. With each stroke of the hammer, a different thought invaded his mind. What if he could help Apache find a way to blend his talents with the essence of the ranch? This idea, however, evolved into a greater burden, one that followed him like a restless specter. Could he, should he, mentor Apache, given how lost he himself felt? The thought of guiding someone, especially someone with such promise, ignited an unfamiliar flame of responsibility within him. His mind raced with possibilities. They could create something together, a showcase that fused Apache's art with the ranch's legacy. But who would they be without the farm? As twilight turned to night, Jake found himself standing in the emptiness of the field, staring up into a blanket of stars. Memories of his father's lessons echoed in his mind, vivid flashes of a man who had always believed that the worth of a person lay not in what they achieved, but in what they inspired others to achieve. In the stillness, the weight of his decisions began to shift. He could approach Apache with the fear of being the one to lead him astray, or grab hold of the hope that rose within him. There was risk involved, a risk of failure, but wasn't there risk in not trying? The looming deadline of the mortgage crept back into his consciousness, an uninvited reminder of what was at stake. But suddenly, doubt transformed into resolve. They could experiment together. Apache could create pieces that told the stories of the ranch, perhaps even attract attention to both the art and the land they tended. Jake felt the stirrings of ambition awaken inside him, the kind that could lead him to reevaluate everything he thought he lost. With newfound clarity crystallizing his thoughts, Jake decided he would see Apache tomorrow. He would speak about his dreams and uncertainties too, articulate his worries about legacy, and invite him to discuss an artistic collaboration, with it perhaps a resurrection of purpose. As he tucked away the tools, determination glowing in his chest, the immense challenge of his future loomed. The ground felt unsteady, but filled with potential energy. Tomorrow's confrontation could either pave a path of renewal or expose the cracks he was so desperately trying to mend. Stepping away from the barn, fresh resolve gripping him like a vice, he whispered into the stillness. The time had come to face it all. But was he ready to confront more than just the land he was responsible for? As night descended, he pondered the possibility of confronting himself, the loudest voice of all. Dawn broke over the ranch, illuminating the fields with a gentle warmth that seemed to echo through Jake's once heavy heart. He moved purposefully, a rhythm in his step that matched the pulse of a fleeting hope. As Jake prepared to meet Apache, the gravity of his decision sat heavily on his shoulders. In the growing light, he began to see the ranch not as a burden, but as a canvas awaiting the right strokes to breathe new life into its legacy. The morning felt electric, charged with unspoken potential. Jake recalled the stories that Apache had shared, the vibrant colors and spirited characters that seemed to leap off the canvas. What if this same vibrant energy could infuse the ranch? He thought of how Apache's creative spirit could awaken not only his own ambitions, but might also draw attention to the beauty and history of the land he had nearly resigned to forget. As he trekked toward Apache's studio, doubts flared within him, momentary sparks of anxiety questioning his resolve. Did he truly have the ability to guide someone so talented while he himself felt adrift? Yet, an increasingly fierce determination washed over him. Maybe his flaws ruled his heart because he allowed them too long. Apache's youth and passion flickered in his mind, steering Jake away from self-pity and toward personal redemption. Reaching the door of the studio, he could hear the sounds of paintbrushes dancing against canvas, a symphony of creativity flowing that seemed to call out to him. Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself with the reminder of his intentions, the hope driving him forward. "Apache?" he called softly, stepping inside. The young artist turned, surprise mingling with joy lighting up his face. "Jake, come in. I was just working on something new," Apache responded, a spark of enthusiasm igniting his every word. Jake felt a warmth gathering in his chest, an awakening realization that collaboration might bear the fruits of mutual growth. "I've been thinking," he began, measuring each word carefully. "What if we did something together? Art's here on the ranch. Your art telling our story, blending the two worlds." A thoughtful pause filled the space between them. Apache's expression shifted into one of thoughtful curiosity, as if he were weighing the gravity of the proposal against his own aspirations. "But why would a rancher like you want to get involved in my—" "Because I see you, Apache, Jake interjected, urgency lacing his tone. I see your talent, and I feel this ranch represents dreams that can be more than just farm work. It could be art. It could be life. Apache's eyes widened, processing the notion of an authentic union between their worlds. Unsure, he hesitated. You really think people would care? Art isn't just fences. What if I failed? The vulnerability in Apache's gaze struck Jake. He was reminded of his own fear of failure, the confidence he wished he possessed, and the terrifying uncertainty that had gripped him for so long. But what if you don't? Jake urged, lowering his tone. What if this is the chance you've been waiting for? Jumbled thoughts and calculations danced visibly across Apache's face as he considered the offering. In that moment, Jake glimpsed the future flicker in Apache's eyes, an anticipation for risks untried and boundaries untested. Let's start a project, Jake proposed, his voice stronger, carving out their path forward. Something small, a piece that celebrates the ranch, the legacy inside of it. A smile spread across Apache's face, brightening the room and recharging Jake's resolve. Okay, he replied, voice steady. Let's do this. With an electric sense of purpose, they began to discuss ideas, diving into the intricate details that would knit their dreams together. Each suggestion felt like an expanding ripple, instilling life into their shared aspirations. Jake realized that although he might be broken, he could still help forge something remarkable alongside someone brimming with potential. However, beneath the surface of burgeoning hope, the looming deadline for the mortgage continued to taunt Jake from the shadows. The stakes were high, and as excitement unfurled, an unsettling question crept back into his mind. Would this collaboration be enough? The thrill of creation contrasted painfully with the reality of his financial struggles and looming responsibilities. As they sketched their plans, Jake felt a pressing weight grow heavier. How much time did they truly have? In the midst of their burgeoning partnership, a sliver of doubt slinked into his thoughts. The fire of determination wafted alongside the acrid smoke of anxiety. What if this partnership couldn't save the ranch? As they set their sights on the horizon of possibility, Jake found himself balancing hope and despair, one foot on unstable ground. The first brushstrokes of a new future beckoned him forward, but shadows haunted the edges. Was he truly ready to face not just the ranch, but the very real specter of impending failure? The air pulsed with potential as he turned back to Apache, who was now sketching fervently, completely immersed in the inspiration. Would they be resilient enough to overcome the storms approaching them? In that silence, Jake felt the tension build. Where would his new path eventually lead? Jake's heart drummed in rhythm with the flickering excitement swirling in Apache's studio. Ideas ricocheted between them, a newfound dynamic burgeoning into something vibrant and alive. Yet despite the thrill of creation, Jake's mind remained ensnared by the dark tendrils of financial reality. The weight of the mortgage deadline hovered in the air, suffusing the colors of their vision with a faint hue of urgency. They began sketching out their first project, a mural that would narrate the ranch's history. Apache flourished under the burden of inspiration, his hands moving quickly, marking the walls with preliminary outlines. We can show the life cycle of the ranch, Apache proposed, his eyes glinting with passion. From the barren lands to the flourishing fields, the story of resilience. Yes, Jake readily agreed. His adrenaline surged, but with it grew the gnawing ache of fear. How to keep this momentum alive financially? The nagging questions trailed him, even amidst the tentative threads of hope being woven between them. We could have a small unveiling, he added cautiously, assessing Apache's reaction. Invite people from the local community, get them involved. Apache looked unsure, his excitement momentarily dimmed. But will they care? I mean, it's just a mural. What if no one shows up? What if— Wait, Jake interrupted, sensing the hesitation that mirrored his own. This is more than just paint on a wall. This is about sharing something real, something that connects us to this land. If you pour all the fire and passion you have into this piece, they won't be able to resist. They'll feel that life. Jake's conviction surprised even him. He hesitated before the onslaught of his own fears, yet the resolve to assist Apache outweighed them. Their eyes met, and Jake wondered if Apache glimpsed it too, the burgeoning vision larger than any of their apprehensions. As they continued planning, Jake fell into a rhythm of collaboration he hadn't realized he craved. Each new idea that flowed from their brainstorming sessions illuminated pathways he never considered before, pushing him outside the confines of his past uncertainties and insecurities. But as excitement escalated, it brushed against the chilling backdrop of the unavoidable reality. The ranch still required care, upkeep, and financial stability. He projected the feasibility of their plan. With every brushstroke and shared laugh, however, the vision clouded under the specter of impending debt. Each scenario played out like a specter lingering behind him, whispering warning tales of inadequacy. Amidst the euphoria of creation, Jake felt a bustling sense of urgency take hold. "What's our timeline?" he queried, trying not to sound frantic. "When should we aim to unveil?" Apache paused, pen hovering midair, the color fading momentarily from his features. How about in a month? It'll give us some time to really develop the piece." Jake bit his lip, weighing Apache's enthusiasm against the pressure of reality. A month seemed plausible, a stable time frame, yet within it lurked the tight deadline that loomed. His mortgage needed to be paid. Could they even finish the mural in that span? Could they draw enough people to witness it? "I like a month," Jake finally replied, masking the tang of worry with optimism. "We can push hard and make every detail count. I believe we can do this." But the fissures of doubt lingered in his mind. The ranch had demands that couldn't be ignored, time ticking like a countdown clock whispering an anxious refrain. As they set their sights on creating this mural, Jake silently grappled with the questions that began to swirl. Could his newfound determination and collaboration with Apache withstand this ticking clock? Merging a creative vision with financial pressures was no easy feat. Late in the evening, after a day brimming with ideas and laughter, Jake left the studio with a conflicting mix of hope and anxiety. Looking up at the vast expanse of stars overhead, he wondered if there was a universe out there that would align in favor of their dreams. As he walked toward home, his mind spun with possibilities, but also the unavoidable reality that if this endeavor faltered, the very foundation he was trying to build might crumble. And as he reached the creaking front door of his ranch, the gnawing worry returned. Was a month truly enough time? Jake paused, looking back toward the studio, illuminated by warm light. The possibilities ahead seemed infinite, but could they stretch beyond the impending storm? The question lingered as he closed the door, echoing against the backdrop of his unfolding aspirations. What would happen when the reality of their venture met the harsh truths of his obligations? The following morning felt heavy and constricted, like a thick fog blanketing Jake's mind. As he sipped his coffee, the reality pressed against him, both the constancy of bills and the ambitious plan he had begun to stitch with Apache. The combination eluded him, turning potential triumph into a tightening noose of anxiety. What if they poured everything into this mural only to find emptiness in their audience's reaction? The day rolled forward and expectations accumulated like unwanted shadows. Jake pulled on his work gloves and meandered through the ranch, distracted by the beauty surrounding him. His sanctuary now felt like a vast battlefield. Each hoofprint of the horses reminded him that he was a guardian, continuously battling hidden monetary threats. His fingers trembled slightly as he considered his commitment to this mural and the obligations tied to the ranch that stood resolute. With determination flickering within him, he returned to the studio, finding Apache already there, sketching fervently with a focused intensity that seemed almost otherworldly. "Jake!" Apache's voice rang with enthusiasm. "I've got ideas flowing like wild mustangs. Look at this." He turned the sketch pad toward Jake, revealing a depiction of the ranch's legacy. A vibrant sun casting rays over flourishing fields, and figures of men and women working together, their expressions imbued with joy. Jake felt a swelling of pride, admiring how Apache's creativity transcended borders. But in the same breath, the pressing reality clawed at him, reminding him of the last mortgage payment looming just ahead. "It's incredible, Apache," Jake said, forcing a smile. "You've captured a sense of unity here, but—" The pause felt weighted, a rock in his throat. How do we ensure people see it? I mean, it's one thing to create something beautiful, but will it resonate? Apache's eyes narrowed, studying Jake with an intensity that made him squirm. "You think I'm only creating this for art's sake? This is our history. You're offering a connection, a story. What we need is a way to make them feel what we felt. But how? That question hung between them like stale air, and an unsettling realization struck Jake. He was, in many ways, the architect of this communal engagement, but the fragility of his resolve began to take hold. Could they host a gathering while balancing their personal financial risks? The possibilities dwindled, and he glanced toward the sketch. Vibrant imagery clouded with an uncertain future. "I don't want to dampen the spark," he interjected, wrestling with the implications of planning any public gathering. "But think realistically. If we do this, I need to ensure the bills can be paid. Can we fund and promote this unveiling well enough to draw in the crowd?" Apache narrowed his eyes, seeming to sense Jake's unease. "You know, I can work more on the mural, but let's not forget the power of community once this is unveiled. It's important. If we invite the townsfolk, they might surprise us." Jake hesitated, appreciating the optimism, yet fighting against his own cascading doubts. There was a vulnerability now, an opportunity to confront the isolation he felt in managing the ranch alone. "All right," Jake finally relented, his pulse steadied with resolve. "Let's plan an unveiling, but we also need to engage with local businesses. Maybe they'll help us fund the event. Mutual promotion." A flicker of excitement ignited in Apache's eyes once more. "That's the spirit. We can do this, together." The synergy sizzled in the air, and Jake felt the weight of potential shift, the beginning of a transformation. But just as joy blossomed, a firmness lodged in his throat, a sudden thought that threatened to topple their bright trajectory. What if they lost everything? Could he bear the pressure of promising not just a mural but securing a community's interest? Would he muster the courage to face the townsfolk, the very people whose judgments he feared the most? As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows on the studio floor, Jake wrestled with the burden of his newfound commitment. He would push past mile markers he once perceived as immovable. What he didn't know was that within himself lay hidden talents he had yet to tap into, resources that could bridge the gap between creativity and necessity. But as the walls of his real fears began to crack, he wondered if this mural would become a testament to their struggles or merely echo lost promises. The time had come to face not just the unveiling, but also the realities that lingered just outside the light. Would he rise to meet both challenges or retreat yet again into the shadows of doubt? As dawn broke, illuminating the studio's worn wooden beams, Jake's resolve bubbled with unexpected vigor. He took a deep breath, embracing the crisp morning air as he brewed coffee, hoping the caffeine would deliver the clarity he desperately needed. The mural loomed large in his mind, and so did the thought of its potential, both for himself and for the ranch. Today needed to be different. He couldn't just be a painter's assistant or a manager dodging responsibilities. It was time to be a leader. Jake decided to reach out to local businesses. Each was a potential partner in this endeavor, each with the capacity to lighten his financial burden and maybe even breathe life into the community. With a determined stride, he ventured into town, a folded flyer ready in his pocket. The paper crinkled under pressure, yet it represented a promise, the unveiling of something more than just art, but a gathering of memories, struggles, and hope. The first stop was Fred's Hardware, an establishment that served as a nexus for local gatherings. He stepped inside, greeted by the familiar scent of wood and metal, an earthy embrace that made him feel grounded. Fred, a portly man with a bushy mustache and a welcoming demeanor, looked up from his register. "What brings you in today, Jake?" he asked, leaning back in his chair, eyes glimmering with curiosity. With an earnest tone, Jake laid out the vision for the mural and what it could mean for the community. "I want to host an unveiling, Fred, create an opportunity for everyone to come together and celebrate our ranch and its history," he explained, enthusiasm melting away some of the anxiety that gripped him. "It could be a great chance for local businesses, too. We can collaborate, promote our services while boosting morale." Fred rubbed his chin, thoughtful. "Sounds promising, but you know times are tough. What about costs? How do you plan to pull this off?" The council underscored the very doubts Jake wrestled with. "That's where I'm hoping you come in. I'm looking for partners. Can we offer some discounts on supplies? Maybe a small sponsorship? It could attract other businesses to join in." Fred's eyebrows raised slightly, the wheels in his mind clearly turning. "Let me think it over. If we can rally a few more folks, we might just have a plan. Jake left Fred's with a flicker of hope igniting within him. The journey continued down the street to the bakery, the air thick with the scent of fresh bread. He stepped inside, greeted by warm smiles from Mrs. Andrews, who had owned the place for decades. He had run into her more times than he could count, each time punctuated by genuine camaraderie. "Jake, you look serious today. What's going on?" she inquired, rolling out dough. He laid the idea before her, coupling vision with opportunity. "I could really use your support for the mural unveiling. Your pastries could be a draw for attendees. People love your treats. A few baked goods for the event, and we can make it special." Mrs. Andrews's eyes twinkled with excitement, but a hint of worry lurked. "Will it really matter if just a few people show up?" With a surge of conviction, Jake replied, "It will matter because it shows we care. It shows that we're here for each other, that this ranch is more than just land. It's our shared heart." By the end of his town visits, Jake felt an exhilarating blend of anticipation and anxiety. He wasn't just reaching out to secure resources, he was challenging himself to share a dream and inspire others. The past didn't have to define him, nor did fear of judgment. Yet, as he stepped back into the studio later that day, with Apache waiting eagerly for updates, doubt clawed at his insides. What if the interest was all for nothing? Would he face the townsfolk as the strong example he envisioned or fall short, disappointing not just himself but the community depending on him? Apache's gaze was fierce and unwavering, a mirror of the possibilities that lay ahead. "So what do we have?" he asked, eager for the next burst of creativity. Jake met his eyes, the weight of uncertainty heavy but manageable. "We start planning for the unveiling," he said, voice steadier than he felt. But hidden beneath this newfound resolution was an unsettling awareness. Was he truly ready to face the expectations he had set for himself? Or was this merely the calm before a storm? As Jake prepared to share his news, a thought sliced through the excitement, a question that demanded an answer he couldn't yet grasp. Would this mural be a bridge toward the future he hoped for, or a reminder of all that could go wrong? The following day dawned brighter than usual, a canvas of vivid blues and golds stretching across the sky. But Jake couldn't shake the shadows forming in his mind. He had committed to planning the unveiling, which now loomed over him like the unfinished mural. Each brushstroke, each color choice would have to resonate not only with his vision, but with those he aimed to inspire. As he stood in the studio, staring at the blank canvas where the mural would emerge, a rush of doubt coursed through him. This was more than just a project. It was an endeavor laden with expectations. He had extended himself beyond the familiar comfort of paint and brushes into the complex realm of collaboration and community engagement. He took a moment to breathe, focusing on the wealth of opportunities in his grasp. "Jake," Apache broke the silence, snapping him from contemplation. "We need to keep the momentum going. What's next?" Jake glanced back at Apache, whose youthful energy contrasted starkly with his spiraling thoughts. "I guess we need a plan, a real one," Jake replied, tone wavering with uncertainty. Apache looked around the studio, his keen eyes absorbing everything. "Well, if you're serious about this unveiling, you might want to think bigger. Think of this mural as more than just paint. It's a story of our lives. Bring in the community, get their stories, involve them in the creation." The suggestion tugged at Jake's heart. He had envisioned the mural as his connection to the past, but involving the ranch's history and those who had lived it spoke volumes. Perhaps they could contribute their own stories, their vibrant reminiscences adding depth to his design. "Let's schedule some interviews," Jake suggested, a flicker of excitement igniting in him. "We could set up sessions with the elders, not just their stories about the ranch, but even their dreams. It might give us all more perspective." Apache nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "And think of the visuals. Each story could become a part of the mural, real faces, real moments adding life to your work." That's when it struck Jake. It wasn't merely about creating an announcement of the ranch's legacy, but about redefining the ranch's relevance in their lives, a living history. There was a strength in vulnerability, and in sharing these stories, they could forge connections that went beyond mere paint. With renewed determination, he grabbed a notebook and began outlining potential interview questions. Each inquiry seemed to guide him further along the path toward clarity, and each handwritten note connected his resolve more firmly to the mural. As the day wore on, word of Jake's plans began to spread through the town, igniting curiosity and, in some cases, skepticism. Some folks were willing to donate time and resources, while others expressed doubt, recalling times when ideas of community revitalization had never taken root. The challenge ahead rested heavy on Jake's shoulders, and each knock, the local bakery offering to collaborate, a message from Fred about possible sponsorships, only brought the stakes higher. People are watching, he mumbled to himself, anxiety creeping back in. Failure wasn't merely a reflection of his capabilities now, but also of the faith others had placed in him. He paced the studio floor, thoughts racing. Could he genuinely handle the expectations and ambitions he had set for himself? Could he fuse hope with reality in such a way that they wouldn't falter? Jake, Apache's voice snapped him back again, concern lacing his tone. You all right? Jake paused, meeting Apache's gaze. I need you to promise me something, he finally said, heart pounding at the vulnerability. If I ever lose focus or hesitate, remind me why I started this. Remind me of the dreams we're bringing to life. Apache nodded seriously. You got it. We're in this together. This pact of accountability brought a flicker of warmth to Jake's resolve. But as he pulled out his phone to start scheduling interviews, a chilling thought struck him. What if these stories unearthed darkness? What if confronting the past meant revealing truths he wasn't ready to face? The canvas waited patiently, a stark reminder of everything at stake. The time had come to confront not only the ranch's history, but Jake's as well. Would he embrace this opportunity for growth, or allow his fears to overshadow the light on the horizon? The mural had transformed in his mind from a personal project to a living entity connected to everyone who had stepped on this land, and with that realization settled in, Jake felt both exhilarated and terrified. The next moment would determine everything. His decision loomed as a pivotal point in the project and in his journey. Would he dare to confront the specters of the past head-on? Jake's thoughts remained frenetic as he moved to the back of the studio, where the light flickered through the windows, casting shadows that danced on the floor. Each shadow mirrored his own inner turmoil. The specter of doubt threatened to cloud his vision. Could he truly create something that paid homage to the ranch's history while transforming it into a canvas of connection and belonging? He settled onto a worn stool, drumming his fingers against the wood. The framed sketches around him, remnants of ideas and past ambitions, now felt like chains binding him to familiar failures. He closed his eyes, allowing the steady rhythm of his heartbeat to ground him. Jake? Apache's voice broke through the silence again, this time softer. You don't have to do this alone, you know. Jake's gaze lifted, meeting Apache's earnest expression. It was a reminder that, while he felt the weight of the mural on his shoulders, he didn't have to bear it alone. I know, he admitted, the quietness of the studio amplifying his admission. It's just, everything feels so vulnerable right now. Vulnerability is part of the process, Apache said, a hint of wisdom evident in his tone. You're not just painting, you're telling a story, and every story needs truth. Truth. The word echoed in Jake's mind, leading him into deeper reflection. What if the truth of the stories he sought could challenge not only the community's perception of the ranch, but his own as well? The thought scared him, but perhaps fear was simply a sign of the depths they might explore. As if reading his mind, Apache added, what if we included our own experiences? What if we really dive in, show them our growth, our struggles? We belong to this land, and it has shaped us too. For the first time, Jake felt a flicker of excitement at the challenge. You mean, share our stories too? Absolutely. The mural can be a bridge between everyone's narrative. Let's talk about our journey. Maybe it'll unify the ranch's past with our present. This prospect galvanized him, spurring Jake to grab his notebook again. He began jotting down ideas, details of his journey, the uncertainty he felt leaving the city, the comfort he found in the ranch, the tumultuous clashes between his dreams and harsh reality. Each word was a brushstroke, painting a picture that encompassed not just history, but the present relationship he had with the land. But as he wrote, a gnawing hesitation crept back in. Could he voice the darker parts of his own journey? The loneliness, the feeling of inadequacy, the times he thought about giving up? Something inside urged him to reveal these contradictions. Perhaps doing so would bring authenticity to the mural, allowing the truth to resonate with others facing similar struggles. "Let's make a pact," Jake said suddenly, turning to Apache. "We'll share everything, the highs, the lows, the fear. I can't just stand in front of people and claim to lead them without showing the road I traveled to get here." Apache smiled, support and understanding radiating from him. "I'm with you. This will be a journey of discovery for both of us." The new collective narrative breathed new life into Jake's vision. With each passing moment, he felt more ready to engage, not only with the community but with himself. This mural was becoming not just a project, but a testament to growth, resilience, and the unearthing of shared vulnerabilities. As they dove deeper into their plans, a knock came from the studio door. When Jake opened it, an elder from the community stood there, stirring an unexpected wave of apprehension. The connection with the past was about to become tangible, and as their eyes met, Jake sensed that he was on the verge of confronting something he had long kept hidden. The old man's presence felt like a harbinger, a reminder that the path ahead demanded more than just skill. It required courage. "Mind if I join you?" the elder asked, a knowing smile playing on his lips, as if he held stories that would unravel Jake's journey even further. Jake's heart raced. The canvas was no longer blank. It was on the verge of being filled with voices yearning to be heard. What awaited him in this new exchange? Did the stories of the past have the power to transform not only the mural, but also his very understanding of self? Jake stepped aside, motioning for the elder to enter. He felt a mingling of curiosity and nervousness. This man carried the weight of history, both personal and communal. The elder's presence demanded attention, yet also offered an opportunity for understanding, something Jake realized he desperately needed. "Thank you, young man," the elder said, settling into a chair across from the worn stool Jake had chosen earlier. His gaze drifted to the sketches lining the walls, the lifeblood of Jake's aspirations. "These look promising." "Thanks," Jake replied, forcing a smile as he gestured to the unfinished designs scattered across the table. "I'm trying to create a mural that captures the ranch's history and, well, my personal journey too." "The stories we tell paint the world around us," the elder remarked, a spark igniting in his eyes. "But they must come from the heart. Are you prepared to share yours?" Jake hesitated, brought back to the fiery pangs of vulnerability he felt before. Sharing his experience felt like unearthing buried stones. "I'm afraid it might not be enough." "Enough is not the question," the elder said, leaning forward. "It's about the authenticity in your expression. You mentioned a pact with Apache. You're not alone. Let me share some of my own stories with you." The offer hung between them, rich with possibilities. Jake took a deep breath as he leaned in closer, intrigued by the elder's willingness to open up. "I'd love to hear." The elder began to narrate, weaving tales of the land, the thrill of the first rains, the bond formed with animals, the brutal honesty of hard days, and the beauty tucked away in steady routines. Each story resonated with Jake's own experiences, yet there was more depth in the elder's accounts, a rich tapestry of loss and learning. "So you see," the elder continued, "the ranch holds memories, both joyful and sorrowful. They shape us, guide our paths, and they must be reflected in your mural." Jake felt a weight lift slightly. There was power in sharing these tales, a cathartic release as the elder's words intertwined with his own fears and desires. "It's about making those connections, isn't it?" Jake began to articulate, realizing the truth behind what they were discussing. "Like the land teaching us resilience through its changing seasons?" "Precisely," the elder nodded, "and in your vulnerability lies your strength. The very act of painting your truth can inspire others to confront their own." Jake's heart raced at that notion, the encouragement seeping into his bones. But another fear gnawed at him, the risk of exposing himself completely. What if my truth isn't well received? What if I reveal too much? Fear is a powerful adversary. It silences voices. The elder's eyes locked onto Jake's, holding steady. But when met with honesty, fear transforms into freedom, a realization of self beyond mere existence. You control the narrative, not your fears. Jake pondered the words carefully. Could he truly be that courageous? Everything he sought to achieve stood on the precipice of personal risk. "Thank you for sharing," Jake finally said, his voice firmer than before. "You've given me much to reflect on." The elder smiled knowingly, a sense of pride in his expression. "Good. Now what will you do with that reflection?" As Jake stood, the elder's wisdom resonated within him, urging him to explore uncharted territories in his heart. The shadows of doubt seemed to wane in the light of this newfound clarity. He felt the stirrings of determination. Perhaps it was finally time to embrace his flaws instead of hiding them. As the elder stood to leave, he added one final note. "Remember, Jake, the stories of yesterday build us into who we are today. Use that to inspire others, but don't forget, every brushstroke needs courage." Jake's thoughts swirled, the dialogue igniting a passion he didn't know had been dormant. The mural was no longer just a project. It had become a journey of discovery that unveiled a deeper truth about himself. But as he returned to his sketches, a sudden realization struck him. What lay beneath his surface was a genesis waiting to unfold. He could redefine not just how others saw the ranch, but also how he saw himself. The next steps were clear yet daunting, and as the door creaked closed behind the elder, Jake knew he was about to confront the core of his past. With each brushstroke, he would build a bridge between who he was and who he needed to become. But would he have the courage to face the darkness that inevitably lay within? Jake awoke the following morning to the soft light filtering through the curtains, illuminating the sketches scattered throughout his studio. After his encounter with the elder, clarity began to weave itself into the fabric of his intentions. He felt the weight of the commitment he had made, not just to Apache and the ranch, but to himself. It was now or never. He had to transform his fears into a narrative that commanded attention, and it needed to start today. As he brewed his coffee, Jake mapped out a plan in his mind, ready to channel the urgency of the upcoming unveiling. He could no longer view the mural as solely a piece of art. It was a living, breathing testament to the intertwined stories of everyone who had walked this land. The voices of the community, their struggles and joys could provide a richness he had overlooked until now. Determined, Jake made his way to Apache's studio, eager to share this surge of inspiration. He knocked on the door, anticipation bubbling within him. When Apache opened it, the two exchanged knowing smiles, both aware they were on the precipice of something monumental. "I have an idea," Jake began, his enthusiasm propelling him forward. "Let's not just paint a mural. Let's document our journey and the community's stories alongside it. We'll interview people, gather their narratives, and weave them into our mural." Apache's face lit up with excitement. "That's brilliant! We can create a multifaceted piece that reflects the heart of this place, the ranch, and the people who've shaped it. We might even include snippets from our own lives." The very thought ignited a fire within Jake, pushing him to reflect on his own journey. The isolation he felt was gradually transforming into connection, his past into empowerment. He had spent too long fearing failure, but now he saw vulnerability as a strength that could enrich their collective experience. Over the coming weeks, they interviewed elders, families, and friends, gathering stories both joyful and painful, and Jake felt the warmth of camaraderie wrap around him. Each tale resonated. Echoes of resilience and hope painted the air, preparing them for the monumental task ahead. As the community shared, Jake reciprocated, revealing elements of his own journey, his doubts, his challenges, and his fervent desire to restore the ranch's legacy. In every session, Jake's heart expanded, and he felt a profound connection to those around him. The tales they collected molded him into not just a rancher, but an artist, a storyteller, inspiring others through his bare honesty. He no longer battled the fear of inadequacy alone. Instead, he utilized it to fuel his ambition, to connect deeply with the community he had tried to distance himself from. As they began sketching the mural, now an elaborate tribute to the intertwined lives that sustained the ranch, everything seemed to align. The looming deadline of the mortgage still hung in the air, but Jake, with Apache by his side, was determined to meet the challenge head-on. The unveiling day arrived, and excitement hummed vibrantly through the air. Jake stood back, surveying the mural that had become a collective embodiment of community spirit and artistic resilience. Bright colors splashed against the wall, depicting not just the ranch's legacy, but intertwining their lived experiences, the struggles and triumphs of each individual involved. Local businesses lined up to contribute, and the turnout was far greater than Jake had anticipated. They came not just to see the mural, but to celebrate each other, to recognize their shared stories. The initial fear of revealing his vulnerabilities transformed into a badge of honor as he stood, not as an isolated figure plagued with worries, but as an integral part of something much larger than himself. As the crowd gathered, Apache nudged him with a grin, and Jake felt a wave of satisfaction wash over him. Here, at this moment, he had accomplished much more than he ever envisioned. The ranch, with its full history, its struggles, and its triumphs, was not a tomb of dreams, but a vibrant tapestry of life, threading together every lived experience. At the opening, Jake spoke passionately to those assembled, sharing his insights gained along the way, the truths unearthed during their collaborative process. "This mural stands as a symbol of our resilience," he proclaimed, his voice quaking with emotion. "It embodies the stories that have shaped us and the shared commitment we all have to this land." As applause erupted, he felt the exhilarating rush of recognition and competence. No longer was he a captive of fears. Instead, he emerged as the architect of his life's narrative, now woven into the lives of others. When he caught a glimpse of Apache, pride beaming on the young artist's face, he realized that their symbiotic relationship had led to a profound transformation, one that solidified not just his rank as a rancher, but his role as an artist and community leader. In that moment, Jake knew he had shed the burdens of expectation and emerged renewed. Each brushstroke of that mural now encapsulated his journey, a mosaic of struggles transmuted into triumphs. He conquered his fears, fostered connections that transcended isolation, and embraced his role with confidence and clarity. As twilight descended, painting the sky with hues of hope, Jake stood resolute in his newfound purpose. He had proven to himself what he long thought impossible, that in embracing vulnerability and collaboration, he had reclaimed not only the ranch, but also a piece of himself. Each day from this point forward carried potential, painted with determination and possibility. Now it was time for others to follow suit and embrace their own transformations. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your thoughts matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. True fans of personal stories of overcoming know the importance of standing together.